kit, by the way. Hey, what's up, everybody? Listen, you're on the Golazo America YouTube channel. You know what to do. Hit like, hit subscribe, turn on your notifications, and let's get after it. Hi, hello, and welcome to your favorite average good podcast. Call it what you want. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Charlie Davies and Tony Meola. And guys, we got to get right after it because there are leagues that need love and adoration in this country, and one of them is kicking off their playoffs. Yes, we've talked about MLS, but now we're talking about the USL Championship. And the quarterfinals are set in both conferences. And we're excited to have one of the coaches right away. Come on, Hartford Athletic General Manager and Head Coach Brendan Burke on the show. Brendan, we're bringing you right on. We don't have time for all the other fun stuff because we know you have training, big training. You're taking on the Pittsburgh Riverhounds going into this as the 5th seed. Now, first and foremost, how are you doing? You look great.
Good. Thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, we're locked in. It's a long season, but this is the fun part.
Yeah, it is the fun part. And you and I got to, well, you got to coach the winning team, Hartford Athletic, in the Jägermeister Cup final. And I was there working that game and very excited for you guys to win that. Winning that trophy, which for everybody that doesn't know is like an in-season, let's say, Open Cup for USL Championship and USL League One teams. You guys went on to win it, your first major trophy. How do you get the confidence and what kind of confidence does that give you going into these playoffs, knowing that you've won a trophy already?
Yeah, it's huge because we're a young team. I think we're second youngest in the league. So those experiences are invaluable. And no matter how old your team is, to win a trophy, there's nothing like it in sports. I mean, I was lucky enough to be in Houston when we won the Open Cup a few years ago, and there's just nothing like it. And it does, it just breathes so much confidence into the whole building. So we're confident on the road, at home. Doesn't matter.
Brendan, you talk about confidence in the building, and first off, congrats on that, and great to have you on. This is a Hartford side that hasn't been in the playoffs for quite a while, but when you get to the club, like, what's the first part of the messaging, right? Because we all know, like, if you're in a situation where you're not winning games, you're not. The building kind of, they start to get into that mentality a little bit, right? So, what was the first sort of mission for you when you got there?
To lay a foundation, expectations, culture, daily habits. Honestly, it sounds boring, but when you boil it down to daily habits, you guys all know as top players, if your daily habits are good, your performance on the weekend is going to reflect that more often than not. So it was changing culture, changed a lot of personnel. I changed the entire roster over the first, I would say, 18 months it took to get the entire roster flipped over. Sometimes it just needs new faces. It needs new faces and lay those expectations down clearly and right off the bat. It's the same thing we did in Colorado Springs, and they went on shortly after I left there to win the whole thing. So we had a blueprint. That helps. Having a blueprint gives other people confidence in you when they know you've done something before at the same level. So I think that was it. It was daily process, habits, and culture.
Berkey, proud as hell of you from our Boston College days.
That means a lot, man.
Philadelphia Union days. For those who don't quite grasp the connections here, not only did I start my college, career with Berkey at Boston College, but at the end of my career with the Philadelphia Union, it's kind of going through injuries, coming back. I was dealing with, recovering from cancer, trying to build my fitness back up. And Bethlehem Steel was there, and Burke was the head coach there. And then I was playing for him. So it was
a weird moment. I gotta say that.
weird moment. But you've been an assistant at the MLS level. You've been a head coach at the USL level, and now you are leading Hartford into this kind of new phase. Where do you see them in the landscape with promotion and relegation on the horizon? How big can this club get? Where do you see yourself in the pecking order?
There's real ambition here to get big, but we're going piece by piece. So they put in some good infrastructure this year in terms of training ground and building out a sports performance piece. We're trying to now take care of the food and nutrition and things people don't always associate with your performance on the weekend, but they matter. And our owners have stepped up, and they're starting to give us all those things that we're asking for, that we're telling them we need, and we do need them to build these guys up so that, you know, in MLS, you might carry a 30-man roster. In USL, you're lucky if you're carrying 20 pros. It's 18 to 20 pros. So you got to really take care of these guys and make sure training's dialed in, but also all the support network around them is dialed in. So that part, I think we're getting there. And I know for a fact that our ownership group have the ambition to go pro-rel and to be at the top of that pyramid. I know I've spoken to our mayor here in Hartford. I know we're chasing a big, beautiful stadium. It's going to take a while and going to take a lot of hard work, but the momentum that the team's creating right now around the city helps all of that. And that's what people keep telling us.
Now, Brendan, this has been this is a nice segue, actually, because what I learned in my research for the Jaeger Cup final was that you had only one out of your first 11 games this season. And then
I didn't even know it was that bad.
Yeah, well, I'm just reminding you. Well, this just makes it sound so much sweeter with all the success you've had. But you and I talked about how there was this mandatory mental health break around the July 4th. And when your team came back from that, you had to take 3 or 4 days off. You just had this really revitalized, reinvigorated team. What happened during that moment that allowed you kind of flip the switch? And
a trip to Cape Cod, Nantucket.
That's where I was. I was on Cape Cod. You know,
hanging with Charlie.
It wasn't just for me. All the guys got home, see your family. I mean, that stuff matters, and there's a reason MLS is doing it now. There's a reason USL is doing it. You need it. The players need it more than anyone because of the grind that they're under mentally, physically, the various pressures. We talked before we left for that break about coming back different individually, but also collectively, and not really in any great specific way. But I think people took that to heart. We knew we were close. We knew that we were 1 out of 11 at the beginning, but a lot of that was because we were going to games with 12 and 13, 14 pro players. You got to be a magician at that point. So we also spoke with the ownership through that period, and they really stepped up and supported us. We brought in Jack Panayiotou on loan from New England, Owen Prestis. Eventually, we signed a couple other kind of journeyman pros who had been good in USL over their career. And now we're a very healthy 21-man pro roster going into the playoffs. So night and day different, but everybody kind of contributed to that. But yeah, the beach doesn't hurt. Beach never hurts.
Never.
Tell us about your group a little bit, right? For maybe some of our viewers that don't know some of the names. You mentioned Prestis comes up. I'm assuming that's Tom Prestis' kid, right? That
it is.
Played back in
here.
Good.
Of them, I should say. Owen and
yeah. Just tell us about your roster, like who we should be looking out for in this group.
Yeah, TJ stepped up. He was the captain of Yale last year. It was actually Duncan Otten that called me about him and pushed it. He really pushed it. So I started watching and I said, yeah, I think I see it. We brought him in thinking he would be support for our starters. And he became one of our starters almost immediately, and he never gave the job back. So he'll be one to watch going into the playoffs for sure. Just great kid, really well-rounded, really intelligent, just gives the game whatever it needs. His younger brother, Owen, is on loan from Columbus right now, and he's going to be a special talent. He's in that U20 and tracking toward the Olympic pool. Just great kids, very similar in a lot of ways, but very different players. Owen's more of an outside back or a wing back. Could play in the outside of a 3, but so adaptable, both of them. Those guys are great. But then Michi Galina has been with me since the Bethlehem Steel days when he was an 18-year-old. Now he's 24, 25, and one of the best wingers. If not, for my money, I'm going to be selfish here. I think he's the best winger in USL. And when he's on, it's just put your feet up and watch him go. Momo Dieng, who we actually sold to Minnesota earlier this year, was an amazing player to watch, just 21 years old. He was on the bench, didn't play the other night against Seattle, but it's been great to watch his progression. We have a lot of really young, talented players here. We want to, as we build the foundation, make sure that we're developing and moving on players. So it's another revenue stream for a smaller club. That's really important to us. And that's one of the pillars that I sold the ownership group here on. So it was important to have proof of concept. So we let him go mid-season, even though he was one of the top scorers in the league, because we had Kyle Edwards behind him, just a good journeyman veteran who has 12 goals. So Kyle will definitely feature in the playoffs for us. Yeah, it's just a lot of good things happen all at once because we fought through that early period, you know?
Hey, incredible how you've been able to help ownership understand how to have success in USL. Yep. So now looking forward, what are the expectations in this playoffs? So of course, you won the cup. You're the 5th seed. You probably have ambitions to try and challenge, but what's realistic for you guys? What would be success in the playoffs? And then how does this set you up for next year?
Yeah, I said it to Jimmy before we came on. You know, Louisville are the gold standard of USL, have been for many, many years now. Great culture, great facilities, you know, great leadership on multiple levels. So I think it's theirs to lose. The trophy's going to run through there. They were our last regular season game, and they gave us a good lesson. We only lost 1-0, but it could have been 8. You know, it just super efficient in everything they do, but also physically dominant. And there's not many holes in them. So for my money, the trophy still runs through Louisville. But I do think we're one of the few teams who could potentially give them a game if we can get to that stage next weekend.
Is it park the bus and hope for a set piece, or like what are we?
You know, that's
not
in my DNA. That's not happening. That's a couple tweaks here and there, but we're never parking the bus. No,
okay,
I'm not going out like that. I probably will go out, but I won't go out like that.
Well, Brendan, thank you so much for your time. Good luck to you and Hartford Athletic in these USL playoffs, and we're wishing the very best for you against Pittsburgh Riverhounds this weekend. Brendan Burke, everybody.
Guys. Awesome.
Let's go, Berkey.
Keep it going. All right, Brendan Burke from the Hartford Athletic. Again, they're taking on Pittsburgh Riverhounds on Saturday. We'll get you more information on all the games. CBS Sports Golazo Network will have a few of those in particular. All right, great interview. As I mentioned during the interview itself, I got to hang out with Brendan right after they had won the Jaeger Cup, and it just was so cool. He was so proud of his guys, and there was something his players were saying in the interviews, and you could just see him going, man, this is exactly the same things I've been telling them. And the messaging was so clear, and the buy-in it's great. And I think that they're going to be a real threat going into this. And if they can get to the next round and Louisville win their first game against Detroit City, then they would face each other in the conference semifinals. All right, let's talk about the USL Championship playoffs overall. And Chuck, maybe, I don't know, you be leaning towards Hartford and Rhode Island? Are you going all, you know, are you going all the...
Hey, don't hate on my allegiance to New England. Okay?
I'm not hating on any
don't
allegiance.
Hate on it.
I might go with my West Coast teams, frankly, because I've got my Stack Republic Fauxback jersey, because this is actually what they think their jersey would look like back in the 90s if they had existed. But let's talk about the Eastern Conference first. And Chuck, I mean, Brendan had said it for us. Louisville City is the gold standard, and if they don't win, this would be a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, I'm going to take his word there. So basically, I'd find it surprising if we all didn't go Louisville chalk, right? Because they're that much better than everyone else. But I love a good underdog.
Sure, why not?
Rhode Island upsetting Charleston Battery, and in that 7-2. I could see Hartford taking down Pittsburgh Riverhounds, and they're having that rematch in the conference semifinals from the regular season, last regular season game, which will be interesting. I always love the chess match from a team that knows you are better than them and you just recently played them. So they have a real understanding of what your strengths are and how to try and poke holes in it. And they have almost like this little edge because you're expected to lose. You're expected to lose to Louisville City. So with that being said, I'm going Louisville City.
Okay.
Danny Cruz has been exceptional with that club. So
all right. Let me give you some fun facts about Lou City, just to kind of cement how much of a favorite they are. They won their supporters' shields, their players' shield, as they call it in USL, for the second consecutive year. Okay, they're only the second team in league history to ever do that. They set a league record for 2.43 points per game. I mean, that is ridiculous. They only lost once all season. That was back on June 20th. They didn't lose any games at home, Big Tones, and they're coming into this one on an 11-game unbeaten streak coming into this. Also, they only gave up 19 goals. It's the first time in USL Championship history that a team has given up less than 20 in a regular season. They're doing it right on both sides of the ball. I'd be really surprised. And they get to host every single game. This is single elimination all the way to the final. They get to host every single game at Lynn Family Stadium. I just don't know how they're going to get beat.
Yeah, they're the clear favorite. There's no doubt about it. Charleston is a pretty good side if you watch them play, but I mean, Louisville's been light years ahead of them and everybody the entire season. But you're talking about one-offs, right? Like, fair. That's the beauty I like. That's what I like about one-offs. We were talking about MLS playoffs the other day. I'm not a huge fan of the 3-game series, although there's been really good games. There's this jeopardy, right?
Yeah,
like
at most home and away. Don't give me 3 games.
Yeah. I'm a home and away guy too. 3 games too much.
But I like this jeopardy. I mean, we go to a final and it's jeopardy, right? Like if I wanted to stretch anything out, you can make an argument, right, for a 2-legged final sometimes. But I'm just a big fan of one-offs, and I get why they do it. I understand the theory behind it. But you mentioned Louisville and Lynn Family Stadium. Danny Cruz has been doing it for a while. Remember, he took over for John Hackworth. They were winning championships before that, getting to finals. They built this stadium. Everyone wants to play there. They do it right. So, in the Eastern Conference, I can't see anybody, as much as, we'd like to see an underdog in that Eastern Conference. They got the beast of the East, right? In Louisville, and I don't see him getting knocked off. The Western Conference, I watched some of those games over the last couple of weeks. That's a little bit tighter in the Western Conference, and you got an El Paso who's been around for a little while, a New Mexico United who hasn't lost in 5 games, who ends up 3rd in the bracket. They always have great crowds down there. If you follow, they play in that baseball stadium down there. A lot of these teams playing that baseball stadium. Talking about Colorado Springs Switchbacks, right? This is a team that just coming off a final, so they know how to sort of navigate this thing, although it's not the same year as last year. So I think the Western Conference, Jimmy, is a little bit tighter than the Eastern Conference, and we could see some surprises there. But there are some teams, growing in this league. I think Brendan said he termed Louisville like a smaller MLS kind of team.
Yeah.
There are some teams that are growing into that in the USL. And if you look at what's happening with expansion and, of course, Pro-Rel, they needed to differentiate themselves a little bit. That'll come, I think, in 2028. There's some exciting clubs in this league.
Yeah, I've heard some exciting clubs potentially being built, Tony, as well.
Ooh, wow. I feel like there's a lot behind that particular statement.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Okay, all right. Just throwing it out there.
Excitement out there.
I should have done this for the Eastern Conference, but for the Western Conference, you got FC Tulsa, who are the number 1 seed, taking on Colorado Springs. FC Tulsa had a 19-point swing from last year to this year. They're the number 1, the first time they're ever hosting a playoff game, which is pretty cool in their history. And then Colorado Springs, as Tony mentioned, they are the reigning champs of the USL Championship. So we'll see how that goes. 1 versus 8. El Paso Locomotive versus Phoenix Rising, 4 versus 5. New Mexico, number 3 versus San Antonio, 6. Sacramento, and I got a lot of love for my club up around here in Sac, taking on Orange County SC. That's a California derby there. This is the matchup that I think is really interesting, is that El Paso Locomotive, number 4, and Phoenix Rising, number 5. These 2 teams have played each other 3 times. Listen to this. This will blow your mind. El Paso was up 4-1 against Phoenix. Phoenix came back and scored 3 goals in the last 25 minutes to tie 4-4. They played each other again. Phoenix was up 3-0. El Paso came back and scored 3 goals in the last 20 minutes to make it 3-3. And then they played against each other in the Jaeger Cup, and it was 2-2, and Phoenix won in penalties 7-6. I mean, that is mind-blowing matchup. If you're going to find or make any time for the USL Cup, or excuse me, USL Cup playoffs, that is going to be, there's going to be a lot of goals in that one. So any matchups that stand out for you guys? That one is by far my favorite because that's wild.
Yeah, the El Paso Phoenix. You're talking about two really good fan bases there. San Antonio. I mean, you think about what they did with that stadium down there and what they've built down there. This team is in the finals not too long ago. You got Carlos Llamosa down there coaching in his first season. Yeah, the silent assassin down there. So yeah, there's a lot of. I love what they're building in the USL and how they're building it. Look, I think they know their niche and what it is. They got to take advantage of it like they did in the finals last year on CBS. I mean, we're covering all these games at the network, but last year's CBS numbers were through the roof in that Colorado Springs matchup. So hopefully they do it again. I love the fact that the league is getting support. I think we'd all agree, right? MLS is the biggest league in the country for various reasons, but these local communities that support these teams, I mean, awesome. My buddy has a kid that's playing for free in one Knoxville, and he keeps talking about the fact when they go down there, the one thing about the club is in Knoxville, the fans feel like it's their club. Right? Like they feel like they have a connection to the club, and there's connections in MLS. Don't get me wrong, but this is a smaller community where people are always taught. It's not like you've got a New York team where people are coming from all over the place, which is also great. But these people really feel the connection to these clubs. And this is for all of us, whether you like this league or you don't, whether you like USL League One, it's important for the sport, for these teams and these clubs to continue to grow. I mean, it's the tides lift themselves here, and I think it's really important that we continue to support this league and these other leagues as well, because we need to. We're such a big country. We need to spread this thing around a little bit.
Yeah, a rising tide lifts all boats. All right. As a reminder, you can catch 3 of these matches across the CBS Sports family of networks. It kicks off Saturday night as Lou City face Detroit City live on the CBS Sports Golazo Network at 7 p.m. Eastern. Then on Sunday, we want to make sure you tune into the CBS Sports Network for a doubleheader. Charleston Battery versus Rhode Island FC. Cotto Smith, baby. Michael Parkhurst at 2 p.m. Eastern, followed by a California Classico as Sac Republic hosts Orange County at 9 p.m. Eastern to close out the quarterfinals. Should be a great weekend for USL. All right, we're going to take our first break and call what you want. When we come back, Gio Reyna has made some news, so we need to talk about what Gio Reyna has been saying. Keep it right here.
You can't count on accurate expiration dates.
No, that is a rookie mistake.
Or the kindness of strangers. But thanks to CBS Sports, you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount+.
All right, welcome back into Call It What You Want. I'm Conrad Dino alongside Chuck chasing Chuck, or Tapas chasing Chuck, and Big Tones. And so Gio Reyna has sat down and had an interview with the Associated Press. And he touched upon a lot of things, looking forward to this upcoming World Cup, the previous World Cup. And I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on this overall. He acknowledged that playing time matters. Let's look forward right here. This is with regard to Mauricio Pochettino. He said, I think Pochettino was very clear with saying you need to play, perform, and then if you do, then you have a good chance to come in again. It's all on me now. I feel like this is a bit of a broken record, Charlie Davies, with regard to some of the messaging with Gio Reyna. Now, I put my flag in the ground, a year ago, close to a year ago, that I didn't think Gio Reyna was going to make this roster. I still feel really good about that. It is all on him now, and it doesn't feel like he knows how to get out of his own way.
Well, one, you have to throw in health, right? So outside of, we're talking outside of on the pitch and scoring goals, I think health is a big factor, right? So we know how creative his genius is when he's in form, when he's playing, and we've seen it in spurts. And I go back to early days at Dortmund with Erling Haaland. People were throwing him in the same category as Erling Haaland at that time as a young American creative attacking midfielder. the problem right now for Gio Reyna is his health right now. But at the same time, we go back to the start of it. And I met him as a young, kid with big eyes, just making his move from New York City Academy to Dortmund that summer. Steve Nash had his big game in the city, the showdown, which is awesome. But it was Gio Reyna, Timothy Weah, and Weston McKennie were the three young American players playing in the showdown. And I remember having a conversation with Gio and being like, this kid's a good kid, man. He's positive. He's hungry. He has this big ambition, but he was respectful. He was polite. And I loved his hunger. And you could tell he was confident, quiet confidence. He makes the move, and all of a sudden he's on a rocket ship. And he's playing in Champions League, and he's playing alongside Erling Haaland. And I think your expectations take you to another place, but then arrogance also kind of took him from this humble, hungry kid to I think I should get this, and the expectations that go along with I'm this player alongside Erling Haaland. And so the entitlement creeps in. And I think we saw a player who kind of let that young arrogance and entitlement take him off track. Then injuries coupled that, I think, made it really difficult for him to kind of get in this picture. Now, I think he's done a great job of understanding, okay, my arrogance has taken me off track, and I need to humble myself, and I need to become a better teammate, better person off the field. He's done that, but his body hasn't kept that end of the bargain. And so now you have a player who I think has done a good job of reinventing himself as a person and growing, which we all do at various points of our life. We have lows, but now the game part hasn't caught up to where it needs to be. So at the moment, he's on the outside looking in, and we're not talking just on the outside, on the outskirts. He's way off in the distance, because not only does he have to get back to playing 90 minutes, let alone starting games, but 90 minutes in contributing as a midfielder, he's got to then produce. So it's an uphill battle. We're talking a big uphill. And, we're talking about the conversation, Jimmy, when he was saying, hey, it's not all on me. It's not all my parents. You have to say it's all on me. I'll take all the blame. I put it on myself. I'm not deflecting it on anyone else. I'm not deflecting it on my parents. I'm not deflecting on Coach Berhalter. Me. And he's got to move on.
Hey, you want to talk, Tones? It's all Chuck right now.
He's keep preach, man. Just keep going. Like I don't disagree. Yeah,
I agree. So wait, one thing I want to add, and then I point this at you, Tones, because you have the most playing experience over Chuck and I. When you're around somebody that was this injury prone, it gets to the point where, like, it feels bigger than just it being injured. It felt like there was maybe a mental or an emotional block, right? And obviously I'm speculating here, but it feels like that could be an out for you. Well, like, I was injured. I couldn't make the team because I was injured, or I couldn't do this because I was injured, right? It's always it's a safety net in some capacity. Again, this is all speculation, but the guy is injured so much, and it's like never really pushing on through that. I don't know. I'm using him as an example because I've been around players that are like this, but I wonder if it tiptoes into that area a little bit. Now I'm going to take off my sports psychologist hat.
Yeah, look, this is a tough situation all around, and I'm a little bit surprised that that when asked the question about the 22 World Cup, the answer just wasn't, by this point. What are we in 25 now? The answer wasn't. That's in the past. I want to move forward, right? Like, even if you don't want to take the blame, you don't say that the blame's not on me, in my opinion, right? I'm not here to tell Gio or his family or anyone what to do, but I do think in the U.S. soccer sphere, it's still an open scar for some people, everything that happened there, right? And everyone wants to know everybody's business all the time. I could give a shit what happened behind scenes. I don't care. I want Gio to get healthy, and I want to see him play. I'm really surprised that he's at Mönchengladbach now with his few, but the stats we showed before in that graphic. I mean, that's pretty much you're not playing, right? Like nothing. You're doing nothing at a club that's really, really struggling, who needs some attacking pieces, and you're not doing anything. I'm surprised that he's in this position. I was surprised a year ago when you said you didn't think he was going to make the team. I said at that point, I think if he doesn't play, he's not going to make the team because Pochettino had laid this out in press conference number 1 or 2. But I'm shocked that he's in this position right now. I always thought that we wouldn't be nearly as successful if Gio wasn't on the field because he's a little bit different, as Charlie tried to explain and did explain. But I don't see him. I don't know that he's on the outside looking in as much as he's on that second tier outside kind of looking in, because Pochettino's had a chance to see a lot of players, and whether we like them or not, there's guys that divide opinion. The only opinion that matters in the end is one, right? And that's Pochettino and who him and his staff like, and he's going to make the decision. I don't see Gio in that picture right now.
All right, let's take a look at the quote that Gio, when asked if he would do things differently from the 2022 World Cup and what went down, he said this: maybe in certain ways, but I'm not just going to sort of sit here and take all the blame for something that was made out to be completely my fault, which I believe it wasn't, and also my family's too. So, Chuck, you'd mentioned this, so I'd take you on, and so did you, Tones, about you could have just handled that question a little bit better and also just owned it, taken some responsibility. Yeah, I could have done better. I'm ready to move on.
Yeah,
that still feels like he's kind of tap dancing around taking responsibility.
But to my point, Jimmy, when that is asked, if you do want to answer it, like you're confident in yourself to say that was a real growth moment for me. I handled that situation terribly. That's on me.
Yeah.
Right. That's it. And then you move on to whatever the next question is. I think deep down, of course, there's some factors in there that aren't on you. But ultimately, you have to own it. That's on you. And by the way, Ricardo Pepi was in the same situation of being axed and not getting taken to the World Cup. And was it BS? Like, should he have been there? Could he have helped the team? Yes. But all you can do is control what you can control. And Ricardo Pepi then went on to score goals in Champions League and play every week and then show everybody, hey, I was available in 2022, you know. He didn't take me, but look what I'm doing. So you can prove it with your performances, and not with your mouth, and not with all this other stuff. Gio Reyna could have simply said, "Hey, it's on me. I didn't handle it the right way. I wanted to play, whatever. But now look at me on the field. I've learned from that, and I'm performing. I'm making it so obvious that I have to be included in the 2026 World Cup because I'm scoring goals or I'm creating goals and I'm playing every game. Done. But that's not where we are right now."
What's crazy about that whole situation was, from what I understand, there was a vote whether to send him home or to keep him. And it was like 9-8 to keep him. I mean, it was that close. He must have been, I don't know if you can put it on everybody if that's how close it was to you getting kicked out of a World Cup camp. But okay.
Jimmy, that's something that's like a little deeper for me. Because I think if you have really good leaders in your team, and we talked about that team, right? And we always asked who were the leaders, and we were like picking out one or two guys. If you have an experienced team, right? And who was in your World Cup group? Remind me of just a couple of names that were in your World Cup group.
Oh, I had Brian McBride, Eddie Pope.
Okay, if Eddie, perfect. They just stay those two. We don't have to go any further.
Okay.
Like if Eddie Pope came to you and said, "Jimmy, man, your attitude sucks, man. This is the World Cup." Like you probably would have changed, because I'm guessing you respected Eddie Pope a lot, right? Yes. And the same with McBride. And that's the problem when you have a young team. Remember, we're the second youngest team. How many times have we sat here questioning who's the leader of the team, right? And then we'd go, this one guy. Like I could go back to 94. Like if I had a poor attitude in a training, one thing I never had was a poor attitude when I was on the field. I might have sucked in the games. All that didn't matter. I didn't have a poor attitude. But I would guess that if I had a poor attitude one day, Alexi, Marcelo Balboa, John Harkes, Tab Ramos, any of these guys would have said, "Hey, dude, straighten up," and I would have straightened up. When you have leaders in your team, when you have guys that are completely bought in, I mean, Gio talks about he has friends all the time in this team, right? And how much he likes, whether it's a Joe Scally or someone else. If you don't have leaders in your team, those things happen over the course. In this case, it probably a couple of weeks, right? Because it's the World
Tony,
Cup.
That's the problem with that team. They were the youngest team.
It's my point. It's exactly my point.
They didn't have any.
Right.
Tim Ream was the only guy that could have gone over and been like, "Hey," and we never heard how that went down with Greg and Tim Ream and then his leadership council. But at the same time, for me, it's we had Bocanegra, we had Demerit, we had Agu, we had Landon, we had Tim Howard. On top of a young leader like Michael Bradley.
Charlie, if Bocanegra came to you and said, "Chuck, your attitude sucks right now, right? This is the World Cup. We're at the World Cup right now. Straighten yourself out." What would you have done?
Straighten my ass out.
Exactly.
I'll tell you, and I'd say Bocanegra had those conversations with me early on because I remember being like, why the hell is Bob always yelling at me? Bob Bradley could be on the opposite end of the field, and we're doing the 5v2s early on. We're doing possession. He might be on the opposite end, and he would make it a point to go, "Charlie, it's got to be quicker." and I'm like, what did I do to this guy? And I was getting pissed off. And then Bocanegra, he pulls me to the side. He's like, "Yo, Chuck, he yells at you because he sees something in you. Get it together. Focus." That's a positive that he takes his time to call you out. And then forever since that moment, I was like, oh, he sees me. So I got to be sharper.
It's exactly my point. The leader didn't even let it get to the World Cup. He let you know before anything was big. You're talking about a 5v2. Like, he let you know ahead of time because guys who lead inherently know how to lead, and they know when to push the buttons, and they know whose buttons they can push. And when they get to a guy, they got to know exactly which button to push, right? Like, that's why you have those guys. That's probably why we had the conversation so many times about that young group going, who was the leader in that group? Who is the leader in that group?
So the flip side of this conversation is, yes, there could be leaders within that group, but if the player that's receiving the information, because Tones, if I got told by Eddie Pope, I mean, that's on me to accept and absorb that information and then rectify it. Chuck, if you hear from Bocanegra, Tones, if you hear from Tab or anybody else, like that, you're like, oh shit, I got it. No problem. But if Gio's receiving that information, be like, nah, I'm cool. Then there's only so much leadership that you can do if a guy isn't going to be bought in and do what's necessary to really take advantage of the opportunity. Now, I'm not saying that's what happened. All I'm saying is that
right. I hear you.
It's two sides to the coin, and that player needs to be able to hit that switch or to be able to rectify whatever the information he's given.
And then also on top of this, what came out after the World Cup, which to Gio's point, he had nothing to do with. I didn't bring all this to the forefront, right? That's on Greg Berhalter.
100%.
And to mismanage a situation so poorly, because remember, Greg Berhalter was also seen in a positive light across world football, especially in America, because he took this World Cup team, young World Cup team, inexperienced World Cup team, got them to knockout rounds, competed against the Netherlands, even though Netherlands played them off the park. There were moments where you thought, oh, okay, they're in the game. They had created opportunities. They got them to a point where you could see, okay, 2026, I like our chances with this young group as they continue to progress. That's where Greg was. All of a sudden, one interview completely undid all of that. On top of that, when he came back as with his second stint, which I don't think anyone would have questioned had this not come out, it was a nosedive from there. So you look at it and you go, man, Greg Berhalter really mishandled the situation, because the way it came out, it then was put this huge negative light on Gio Reyna and his parents, but also Greg Berhalter. So it was a lose-lose for everybody after that.
Yeah, and it's not like Mauricio Pochettino didn't have or hasn't had a look at Gio Reyna. He was part of that March Nations League where we lost to Panama and Canada. Didn't play at all against Panama. Only played 21 minutes against Canada in the third place game. So I feel like Pochettino at least has a sample size of what he looks like on the field, what he looks like amongst the group. And so it's not like he can walk away saying, I never saw Gio Reyna, or Gio can't say, well, I never really got a chance. He definitely got his chance and hasn't made the most of it as of yet. But yes, something to keep an eye on moving forward. All right, we're going to take our last break of Call It What You Want. When we come back, we're going to talk about some MLS stuff and some playoff roundup and some end of the year awards. It should be fun. So keep it right here.
The clock never stops. Relive the greatest moments with uninterrupted highlights and more.
It's Gareth Bale! Ronaldo! Wonderful goal!
On the UEFA Champions League channel. Streaming free.
All right, welcome back in to Call It What You Want. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Tony Meola and Charlie Davies. And before we get into the MLS stuff, I do want to touch upon this with our resident Serie A expert, Tony Meola. Luciano Spalletti is taking over at Juventus and is only going to sign a deal till the end of the season with a chance of extending that if they make the Champions League. Juve, 9 points off the top right now, so got a lot of work to do, need an identity. What do you like about this move, and how do you think it impacts Weston McKennie, Tony Meola?
Well, I hope it doesn't impact him in a negative way, and I don't think it will. I think he's once again become too important to this Juve side not to be on the field. He's a guy that has won a Scudetto in the last couple of years, right? Went on, didn't work out perfectly with the Italian national team, but I don't know that a lot of that was down to him as much as the players that were available for selection while he was there. But Weston's he's gonna play for another guy. He's gonna get another set of rules and ideas in his database in his head, right, of how to play the game. But I'm sure he'll fit in fine. I'm surprised by the end of the year sort of discussion with Spalletti, right? Because if you hired Palladino, I would have thought, okay, a younger manager has been at two clubs before this, had relative success, but he still is young. Spalletti's a guy that's been around for a long time, man. And it should be Juventus Champions League or bust because they are Juventus, right? They are a team that is one of the biggest, like the biggest club in Italy. But I'm surprised that managers will take contracts like this. Maybe he wants to feel it out too. Maybe he wants to see where the club is going. Maybe he wants to know, okay, this is my team, but what does it look like after January? Yeah. What does it look like after June window, July window? But I do think they're talented enough to compete for Champions League, no question.
Yeah, I honestly think that comes from Spalletti, the short-term contract. I don't know if that's a Juve. Yeah. I don't know if that's a Juve thing at all. Though I feel like they're still probably paying Cristiano Ronaldo. They're probably paying Mota and Tudor at this point. So they got a lot of the outside spending that they're going to have to manage. All right, let's get into the round one of the quarterfinals because the first game of the quarterfinals is set. And so, Chuck, I'm coming to you on this. Trailing 1-0, and we'll get into the results here in a second, but who do you see forcing a game 3? So you have Inter Miami beat Nashville in game 1. Vancouver beat Dallas 3-0. FC Cincinnati beat Crew 1-0.
Out Dallas. Done.
Okay. Nashville. Do you think they have a chance in game 2?
They do have a chance in game 2.
Okay. All right. So you have Dallas is out. Vancouver's going to win
Dallas
game 2.
Out.
So Columbus Crew, you think they have I think they win game 2 against FC Cincinnati.
Yeah,
that one's going 3 for you.
Yeah. That one's going for 3 for me too.
Okay. Charlotte FC lost at home to NYCFC. Goes back to New York for game 2. What are you saying on that one? What are you saying?
I picked Charlotte to go to the finals of the conference
before
Wilfried Zaha. But no, before Wilf Zaha, no, because I picked LAFC and Cincinnati. But before Wilf Zaha decided to do a little machismo, right, and get thrown out of that game because somebody said something he didn't like. Losing at home was big because now they got to go to NYC where it's a difficult place to play. It's just different. And on the night, NYC was the better of the two teams. Charlotte did not show up, and I know Dean Smith yelling at MLS for giving them a Tuesday night game, but they didn't show up on the night. This one was a little bit concerning, I guess. But credit to NYC. I think they actually go through here in 2 games against Charlotte now.
Yeah, Alonso Martinez, by the way,
Can
scored.
score, man.
What a goal against Charlotte! If you're gonna
top goal,
honestly go find it. He just figures out a way to unlock.
Tim Ream didn't know what happened there.
Statuesque, as we say. I was like, just get it out in the MLS Cup playoffs, Tim Ream. Make sure that doesn't happen for the national team. All right, let's go. Philadelphia Union, Chicago Fire. That game ended 2-2. Philly won in penalties. Philly gave up a 2-goal lead late. I think Chicago will do it in game 2. So we'll go to game 3 to Philly. What are you saying, Chuck?
Yeah, I could see that being a game 3 too.
All right.
Zinkernagels is damn good. He is a top player. That's a good signing from Berhalter.
Yeah, he's a good player. Okay, San Diego FC, Portland Timbers. And San Diego won the first game 2-1. They played against each other in Portland the last game of the season. San Diego won that and won 4-0. Portland, thanks for coming. You're out in game 2. Yep. Minnesota United, Seattle Sounders. Tones, I'll let you have this one. Sounders lost that one. It was 0-0. Minnesota won in penalties. But in Seattle, you got to think game 2, it's going to go.
Wait, did you say 0-0 by chance?
I did, because Minnesota United was playing.
Yeah.
There's one, I feel like when I'm watching it, I'm listening to it on the radio, like driving in my car. It's like I respect what Minnesota does, and I respect what Eric Ramsey does. He finds ways to win games. To me, it's just not attractive. I don't.
To you, not, to anybody with eyeballs.
I'm only speaking for myself. It's not. I'm not speaking.
Everybody who has
if you want to jump in, go ahead.
Good God.
It's attractive because you're winning and you're getting results. It's just boring to me. I mean, it really is. And I get the rationale, and I've had conversations with Eric, and we've spoken about, the lack of any type of possession really and scoring on restarts and all of that. He has a rationale that if you listen to him, it makes complete sense. But if I'm looking at all of these games and I'm going like, I'm ranking them, just the ones I think will be like open and free flowing and, good football the way I like to see it. Cause some people think that that's great football, which is great. It's just not my style. That's not the one I'd tune into.
But we think
I'm not trying to be rude. It's just not
so
an exciting game.
We got Sounders, Minnesota 0-0 in game 2, and Sounders winning in penalties to take it back to Minnesota to game 3. All right, so LAFC, Austin FC. LAFC won 2-1 last night. Austin made that quite uncomfortable, I would say.
They were better,
LAFC.
man, for me.
I thought so as well. But LAFC found a way to get the result, Chuck. Do you think they have enough at home? We saw them lose a big game at home in the Open Cup final in person, unfortunately, to Nashville.
No, I think LAFC make it two in a row. But again, this is a good indicator of how LAFC try to play. They don't play football. They concede possession. Austin.
So they're more attractive Minnesota United? Is that what you're saying?
They're still, because they have 2 game-changing players. It is exciting when they get on the ball because they're usually in transition. They're creating chances, but it's literally 2 attack. The rest, you chill. And they concede possession because they're fine with that. But ultimately, that's the problem that you can run into. And when Bouanga's not on, which he wasn't in this game, it can be pretty difficult. So shout out to the way Austin just competed in this game, but I think they're really lacking quality. Also on top of that, Owen Wolf, the kid can play. That he is a top player.
Yeah. I'm excited to see his progression over the next couple of years. All right, let's pivot now to the MLS salary list has just been dropped by the MLS Players Association. And I guess I want to know what jumps out at you, Big Tones. We got Lionel Messi leading the way with $20 million. He makes $20 million. I think that's more than 10 teams, 12 teams, and MLS is all salary combined. It's pretty crazy. You got Son Heung-min second with $11.2 million. Busquets and Jordi Alba both retiring. That's going to open up some room to spend for Inter Miami, even though Rodrigo De Paul is going to take one of the DP spots. So they'll have one more open next year. Obviously, still waiting to hear what Luis Suarez is going to do, the 38-year-old. Almiron makes a holy crap ton of money. Irving Lozano, $7.6 million. Emil Forsberg, $6 million. Jordi Alba, $6 million. Ricky Puig, I actually think he's a good buy. Just been hurt this season, $5.8 million. Jonathan Bamba, 5.6 from Chicago Fire, and Hani Mukhtar, 5.3 are the top 10 highest guaranteed compensation in 2025. Tones, and then obviously you want to hear from you too, Chuck. Anything jump out at you with that list in particular?
The Busquets, what was he? 8.8. That's a lot, man. That's a lot of money. Good for him and good for his agent. That's a lot of money there. I'm just pulling it up again. Almiron, look, you knew they had to bring him back. Irving Lozano, first signing. Forsberg at $6 million. That's a ton of money. The rest of them, actually, Jonathan Bamba at what was that? A little over $5 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, the good player. But this is where the league is going. Like we're going to continue to see this, and it's great for the league. But yeah, as far as no surprise, right? Messi is $1 gazillion a year. Son, I think he made that up in jersey sales like the first week.
Yeah.
That he was here. And so really not massive surprises here.
And Chuck, I don't know if you want to get into this or maybe just the teams, because Philadelphia Union had the third lowest wage bill of all the 30 teams, and they won the Supporters Shield.
Yeah, that's very impressive. Super impressive. Because it just goes to show that you don't need to spend to win, right? You need to spend the right way, which will guarantee you, I think, to be in the conversation at all times. But we see Atlanta United. What a train wreck. And
they're the third highest spend of all 30 teams, and only won 5 games all season.
Terrible.
Terrible.
But I will say I want to also talk about Garth Lagerway and basically send my thoughts and prayers out to him as he's battling cancer. But man, Atlanta United, they were terrible in all aspects, from selection, these contracts. Just think about how they came into the league with the marketing, with Tata Martino, with exceptional buys in Almiron the first time, and Joseph Martinez, to where they are now. Just dreadful.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think Columbus Crew would be the most recent champion of MLS that maybe didn't have one of the biggest budgets. And where I think Philadelphia invests most of their money is in their youth academy. And then they play those players.
They have Bethlehem Steel, right? So they train with the first team, which is an incredible training facility. It only gets better. But they train with the first team, the top players. Then they play their games with the second team, the Bethlehem Steel. And that's where, when you're looking at some of the young guys like Brandon Aronson, cut his teeth there, Mark McKenzie. It's such a great, I think when you're looking at trajectory of players and a pathway, the Philadelphia Union are always in the conversation because they spend so much money on player recruitment. They have an incredible situation with their players in the facilities at YSC, and then they're able to kind of shoot them through the process with the Union into the second team and then the first team training opportunities. They also are constantly given feedback, constantly. Health and the diet, on how to become a professional. They give them all that information, the access, the exposure. So shout out to the Union and on doing an incredible job with their youth development.
Okay, so what's interesting about the Union, and I want to pivot this way a little bit, Big Tones. When I look at the bottom, let's say 7 spenders in MLS, Montreal's on the bottom.
Terrible.
12, right? FC Dallas, second. Also not great. Philadelphia Union are third bottom. Toronto FC. Minnesota United is 5th. Colorado Rapids 6th. DC United 7th. Real Salt Lake 8th. So those are the bottom 8.
I would have thought DC United would have been rock bottom with Montreal because, again, the decision making at DC United has been lacking, to use a positive word.
Imagine a lot of that is Benteke, right? I don't know I'm going to find Benteke's salary here. What was it, 14 something for?
Yeah,
DC
United is at 14.9 million.
I'm going to guess
everybody
at least 4 million is Benteke, right? I don't.
Right,
have
so
it in
10
front
is
of
on
me.
the rest of the team. Montreal's at 12.9. They're the lowest of the low. And just so everybody has a frame of reference, Inter Miami 48.9. They're the highest. LAFC is second with 30. So just to give everybody, and Montreal's at 12. And everybody else in the bottom 8 is in between. Well, Montreal's at almost 13. So let's just say 13, and Real Salt Lake's at almost 15.7 when they're tied with Austin FC. So you have like the bottom 9 going from like 13 to 16 million.
This is a great question, by the way, Spider Slatan. FC Dallas in general was always thought to be a hotbed. I always looked at, okay, Jersey, Eastern Pennsylvania, in a little bit of Virginia, but in Region 1, that was always kind of the hotbed. Then you'd come down to Region 3, and it was always Texas, Dallas in particular. You have the Dallas Cup. You have these big clubs. They're always producing top talent. But you look at FC Dallas now, and you over the years, what happened? I'm so confused.
The talent's still there. Well. The talent in that area of the country is insane. I feel like the same with DC. I feel like there's a ton of kids that can just rip in that area, you know, and I feel like they should be producing more. And I don't know what's happening, obviously.
So what's they're both Philly and FC Dallas. Looks like they're both at the same salary, a little over 13 million a year. Why is what Philly is doing in their academy translating more to Philly than what FC Dallas? Is it because FC Dallas is just selling their players off to European clubs? You know what I mean? Like, and they've been the two most successful, right? FC Dallas and Philly have been the two most successful in selling youth players or young players out of their system. Why is one translating to being at the top of the table for a long time? Okay, Philly didn't make the playoffs last year, but under Jim Curtin, they were a team you had to compete with all the time. Oh, U.S. Open Cup finals, all of that stuff. I just wonder what the difference is, right?
Yeah, how much time do we have, Tones? I feel like that.
I don't know. I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer. I'm just asking the question. I have no idea.
I think we have to have a whole pod on youth development within the MLS Academy.
Well, that's a different pod,
right? Because LA is another one. You have Galaxy, you have LAFC. You know, what does that youth development look like in those two systems in particular? How are they different outside of location within LA? But I mean, I love to get into the weeds, but we would need a whole podcast to get into the weeds into that.
Well, I'm just talking these two particular teams because they're so even. Well, they're exactly the same in what they spend, and they're second and third from the bottom. But Philly's had a lot of success for a long period of time, right? Last year, notwithstanding, right? They didn't make the playoffs, but now they win a Supporter Shield the following year, so you can look at last year as like a blip on the radar, right? Because one year they didn't make the playoffs. They're in a finals in, 22 in LA, right? And that epic game. But a lot of youth players coming through. How come Dallas is not able to? They're spending the same money on the first team. I think there's like a deeper question, just those two teams together.
Well, I think that in that case, it's sporting director, head coach. Are they aligned? Is the sporting director recruiting the right players? Is the head coach coaching the team the right way? How is the culture in the locker room? Are they filling, the 3 DP spots that you have? You can't miss. You got 3 players that you can pay whatever money you want. You can't miss with them.
Well, how many
times have we seen clubs, and this is what drives me wild in MLS? How often have we seen clubs fail with 3 DPs, let alone 1 or 2 DPs? You can't get these guys wrong.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to what Brendan Burke said at the beginning of the show when he only had 12 or 13 pro players at the beginning of the year. You just have to be a magician to make that work. So to your point, Chuck, when you make these signings, or if you're working and have an idea, you have to be perfect. You can't miss, right? You have to be a magician is what Berkey said. So yeah, it's interesting. And I think maybe when you have a youth academy that's producing as many players as Philly seems to be doing, you can take some swings, and you can maybe have some misses there, but at least you've developed them. They do a good job, I would say, of signing the right guys too. I think that, man, looking at Atlanta United alone, geez, did they not get their signings right? They just weren't aligned. They weren't aligned on any area. Like, cool, it's a good name. He might solve a problem, but does he fit in with the group? I'm thinking of Latte Loth right now.
Latte Loth, how are you going to spend that much money on a championship striker? let alone we're talking like top striker in Europe to come to MLS at that age. But how are you going to spend that much money, pay the guy that much money to come to MLS and be not even a top 10 striker in the league?
I know.
What?
I mean, I was thinking about that with Miranchuk too. Miranchuk came from Atalanta, and he was a beast at Atalanta. I'm like, oh man, what a signing! Not only for Atlanta, but for the league. And yeah, he's got moments.
They didn't know where to play him.
Yeah,
they
he's
had
got
no
moments.
idea how to play him till the end.
Exactly right. Yeah, he's another Gasparini guy. Everybody plays really well for Gasparini, and when they leave, they don't match that. All right, let's finish the show with some league awards. The first one I want to give a shout out to as a former MLS Defender of the Year myself. That was 20 years ago, or 2025. I won it in 2005. Tristan Blackman won it for the Vancouver Whitecaps. Congratulations to Tristan for doing that. He helped Vancouver really become one of the surprise teams of MLS this past season. They gave up the second fewest goals in the league and kept the joint second most clean sheets with 13. They set club records for points, wins, goal differential, goals overall, and I know some of that's on the attacking side. He had 2 goals and an assist. He scored some big goals in the CONCACAF Champions Cup as well. Really well deserved. He was the winner over Jacob Glesnes, who got second from Philadelphia, and Kai Wagner, who got third. Tristan Blackman got 22% total, Jacob Glesnes 15%, and Kai Wagner 9%. So congratulations to him. You're on a great list, my friend, Tristan Blackman. And now we have one that just got announced. The MLS Young Player of the Year has just been announced, and it is, you guys know who it is? I'm pretty sure you know who it is. Alex Freeman. Congratulations, Alex Freeman. The 21-year-old right back has been an absolute stud this season. Breakout year, 27 starts in 30 MLS games, 6 goals and 3 assists in league play, had an additional 3 assists in other competitions. He's been a regular now for Mauricio Pochettino in the U.S. men's national team setup. Amongst defenders in MLS, only Minnesota's Anthony Markanek had 9 goals and scored more than Freeman. Just 5 other defenders, Markanek, Kai Wagner, Jordi Alba, Gutman, Andrew Gutman, and Andy Nahar have recorded more total goal contributions in league play. The 21-year-old's got a bright future. I'm very excited for him to continue on this progression. I saw him on the MLS salary list, by the way. He only makes $107,000. I think that's going to change. What do you guys think?
Yeah, but by the way, I was also, I think we all thought Diego Luna had this award locked up. So he beat out Obed Vargas and Diego Luna. Diego Luna, the first half of the season, he was flying. And the second half of the season, he absolutely fell off a cliff. And that's with his goal contributions, but also just RSL in general. I know I've seen a couple of RSL fans in the comments. It's got to be tough because we've seen RSL at times be one of those high-flying teams. I go back to when Javi Morales was in the midfield conducting,
Kyle Beckerman.
What a squad.
Yeah.
Raimondo in goal, but RSL as of late, it feels like they've just, they put out a product that is,
Yeah. But
what's the title of that award? What was that? Was it Young Player of the Year?
Young Player of the Year.
Yeah, you should only win. Luna had a chance to win it again.
Yeah,
like once you win it once, that's you're like an old player, right? You got to be,
But he won. He was in the final 3. He's one of the finalists. So, but congratulations, Alex Freeman. That's a big deal, and we look forward to seeing what happens with him and the U.S. men's national team.
If my man doesn't get a new contract after this year, he got to fire that agent.
Hey, rip it up. Rip it up.
All right, that's it. We're calling it a show. Join us again next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern here on the Glosso America YouTube channel. Have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy the games. MLS Cup, USL Cup, any games that you're watching from all the other leagues. Hopefully our players perform well, and we'll see you on the other side of it. See you, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us. Later.